Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to a very special edition of the show. We've got in the co-captain's chair today for a nice discussion, Greg Hart, guitar player, songwriter, backing vocalist from Catsinspace, one of the great bands from the UK that we've been talking quite a bit about here on the channel over the last couple of years. So, Greg, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure to be there. And can I first say, before we even start, that we want to say a massive thank you to you and your team, because some of those YouTube videos we've been watching of you reviewing our albums has been amazing, and the Cat fans have just absolutely loved it. So it was really cool to hear you guys dissecting our 4 albums and swapping the number 1 to the number 2s and who hasn't got this and who hasn't got that. So we made sure that we sent out all the missing bits to you guys for doing it, because it does really help us. So let's start off by saying that straight away. It's so important. So
well, you were very welcome. Thanks for the kind words. And yeah, thanks so much for this. Greatly appreciated. Yeah. I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, we're fans also. And I think that probably is evident when you're watching the videos. And, I talk to people all the time, and I talk about it here on the channel. It's like there is really good newer music out there, you know, for all the folks who are, you know, maybe of older, 45 and older, who tend to constantly listen to the stuff that they grew up with. One of my missions in life is to make sure that people who have been listening to good rock music for most of their life can find some of these bands that have come together in more recent years and find something there to love. And I think that your band Catsinspace has a lot of elements that a lot of people like myself grew up with. And so we want to spread the word. So we're happy to do whatever we can for you guys.
Fantastic. That's what we're here for, to try and slot into those old style record collections and feel at home. That's the whole Catsinspace remit right there.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, and we'll get to it in our discussion, I'm sure. But I think one of the things that I really love about your music is that, and you guys make no bones about it, it's like, you know, you all grew up on the same stuff that I did, excuse me, and you've taken all your influences and you've recorded great new music that pays homage to a lot of those bands. That's what it's all about, right? It's just making fun, catchy melodic rock music that's got, you know, all different elements going on there. But I think when it comes down to it, it's all about the songs, right?
Absolutely. Always about the song. Always has been since I was 10 years old. So
right.
Not interested in it. It's all about the song.
So Greg, in saying all that, I guess the perfect segue to it is all about the songs. And we've got this brand new release called Catsinspace Diamonds, the Best Of, which is a compilation. It is a compilation, but it's a little bit different. So you guys only have 4 studio albums. So here we've got, you know, a new kind of greatest hits set, so to speak. But you've also had a major vocalist change in recent years. So Paul Manzi is no longer in the band. Now you've got Damian Edwards in the band. So this was a way to kind of, yeah, and we've seen lots of bands do this in recent years when they've had like a major lineup change. You know, in some instances, they'll go in and re-record the songs with the current vocalist. Here, you guys have chosen to remix the tracks with Damian singing everything. So could you talk a little bit about this and what the decision was to kind of do something like this? And more importantly, how hard was it to pick the track list for this, because you guys have like it's only 4 albums, but like every song is such a winner. Like, how do you figure out, well, what's the best dozen tracks to pick for something like this?
Well, nice to know that for a start. But yeah, we do hear that. I mean, we are quite good at quality control. I've never been one to write 30 songs for an album and pick the best ones. And I find the whole process waters itself down and becomes a headache. Plus, the way we record is pretty full on, and it's old school ways of doing it. So it's not feasible for me to sit there and write 30 songs for the next album. I tend to be very, you know, I kind of work it all out up front. I kind of almost like have the book, how I want to read the story, then I just fill the gaps in. So that's that. So it is hard. And we like to think that, you know, there's no nonsense on our albums. It's all killer, no filler, as we say. But originally it was just meant to be a promotional tool to get us into the European market, because obviously with Damian joining us how he did, and we'd just literally started to put a few tiny footprints down in Germany before COVID came out. And unfortunately, it just knocked us back, which was a shame because we was just getting a few little footprints out there. But we just felt it was the right time to maybe draw a line in the sand. Cats in Space is going to be as it is now. Damien's our new singer. He's amazing. He did the Atlantis album. And we wanted to kind of not have too much confusion trying to use our old material to promote in Germany. So we decided to revisit what we thought would be a good cross-section of the songs across the albums to use purely for promoting us in Germany. So we did. We set about the task of finding the best songs, and obviously Damien had a big input on that because he was fresh blood. So I said, tell me the big songs, tell me the songs that you like, because we're so embedded with every single track. I said, you can do whatever you want. And the first thing, this is before he sang the Atlantis album, but when he came down to try out, because I knew how good he was because he worked with me in a 70s show that goes around the theatres. So I knew what he was capable of. He's a phenomenal singer. But he said, I really like that song 259. I'm like, oh, that's a bit of a weird one. So he sang 259, got the track up with our engineer, and he just sang that in one go, end of, that's it. I was like, good God. So we banked that. And then I said, well, look, we've got this, before we go on to the Atlantis album, I've got this other track that we've not done nothing with. It's the only extra song that we've ever had that no one's ever heard. And it was meant to go on the Scarecrow album. Never made that. It wasn't finished for the Narnia album. It didn't fit in with the remit of Narnia. I said, but it's a really cool song and I'd love to do something with it. So that was Seasons Change. And he sang that in one go, start to finish. That's the only vocal that there is of that song, and it's on the Atlantis album. So that is it. He sang it in one pass. So me and Ian Capel, my engineer, turned around each other and went, what have we just witnessed here? He hardly warmed up to sing. He just sang that vocal. So we knew then that we thought he could do anything here. So I just started, what about if you sing Man in the Moon? And do you fancy singing this? And so he sang about 4 or 5. Obviously, we asked him to join the band, and then we did the Atlantis album, but we had these songs kicking about. So hence how the German promo thing came to light. And basically, the songs kind of picked themselves after that. You know, we had to do Too Many Gods, Thunder in the Night, Hologram Man, etc., etc. The only one we didn't do, funnily enough, was Mad Hatter. It just didn't sit quite right at that point, so we kind of put that one to one side. And when it was all done, we just thought, well, this is too good not to let the fans hear this, because we can't just keep this to ourselves. So we said, okay, look, we'll do like a little cheeky limited edition CD. And then we sat down and did that. And me being a vinyl head, I went, I just know the minute we do that on CD, we're going to get a load of people saying, will it be out on vinyl?
Sure. Yep.
And with the vinyl, the way it is in the world now, with the length of time it takes to get vinyl pressed, we had to make a decision. If we don't get the vinyl now, it won't come out anywhere near in time if we decide to release it a few months after the CD. So we just bit the bullet and went, let's do the whole shebang like we always do. Out comes the artwork, out comes all the limited edition stuff. And yeah, that's how it happened basically. And it turned out way better than we thought, to be fair. We thought a little promo item just to send out to the radio stations has turned into this stopgap album post-COVID. So yeah. It's good. That's the short version, by the way.
There you go. And it's a lot of fun. And for those who, and I think I said this on my review of the album last week, if you've never experienced Cats in Space before, this is a great place to start. You get a nice selection of some of the best tunes. And then, you know, there's...
You get Story Never Told on there, which is an exclusive version, which is...
With the live, yep.
Yeah, we're pleased. We're really pleased with that because we filmed it for a live stream, and it just turned out really good. It's always the centerpiece of our show anyway. Kind of it's right. Phenomenal to our live shows. So you can't do an album without Greatest Story Never Told on it. You know, we'd have been lynched. So we thought, well, let's do a live version. So we did, and I'm really, really pleased with that. because it's got the full ending on there, which is like 9 minutes long.
Right. Yeah. And it's a nice kind of finale to this, you know, hits compilation of all like these great songs. I mean, yeah, it's just one. I'm looking at the track list again, and it's just like, it's just one after another. And, you know, for those watching, if you happen, again, if you're new to Cats in Space and you go out and get this, you're really going to love it. And then you're going to go and try and seek out the other albums. And there's not a lot of them as of yet. So it's funny your comments about how, kind of concise and compact you guys are when you're getting ready to put an album together and you don't come with 30 songs. So I guess in like 10 or 15 years, we won't be seeing remasters with like 4 or 5 bonus tracks on it. Kind of like what Ian Anderson does from Jethro Tull, right? Every time they remaster and reissue, there's all these things that he's been holding on to for years and years and years.
No, I mean, there are bits and pieces. There'll always be things around, and there's obviously demo songs that haven't made to the big studio where we go to record. Once we get into the studio situation, I sit in there and we literally paint the album, if you like. But before that, there will always be a few bits and pieces that don't quite get to that stage. So yeah, there are some songs out there. There's probably half a dozen or so at this stage. But the thing that we like doing, and again, it's a way of showing how versatile we are as a band, especially from the vocal point of view, because we're, thank God, you know, we're continually praised for our vocals, the backing vocals and the harmonies, etc., which we really pride ourselves on enormously, like Queen and Styx and all those great bands. So we've already kind of tinkered with a lot of the songs being done vocal, piano, guitar, stripped right back down, which when some bands do that, it's a little bit of a cop out. You can go and knock it out in a couple of hours and it sounds a bit like what it is, busking your song. But our songs really do lend to the big vocal productions, as you know. So strip that down where it becomes more choral, if you like. The songs work in that format. So we have done a bit of that, and there will be some more of that to go on in the future, because we've done a few songs like it. And we just love singing. You know, we just love sitting around the piano.
What's wrong with that?
Because sometimes you lose it in the big mix that we do on our stuff. It's so bombastic. And you hear the vocals on top and you hear all the harmonies, but you don't hear the textures of the harmonies. You don't hear the full range of them. But when you take them down into a piano, vocal, guitar situation, it's just like, you know, it's a whole different level of performance, you know, and it works a treat. So there's some of that stuff kicking around as well.
Very cool. All right. More to come on that, I guess. So you mentioned before about kind of like painting an album. That's a good segue into my next question. So the artwork on this was done by your drummer, Stevie Bacon. However, you guys usually work with Andy Kitson on all your studio albums. And I hear he's already crafting the artwork for the upcoming studio album, which, you know, I can't wait to see. How nice is it to work with someone like Andy, who I think really gets this whole concept of album art, you know, matching up with and helping to sell the music or an album as we all remember it growing up? I mean, he really gets that, and he puts everything into that.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, we're very lucky. I mean, because, you know, I'm an artist myself, and that's how me and Andy met, because he's a racing car artist, and I kind of paint pop icons anywhere from Freddie Mercury through to Amy Winehouse and stuff. And I used to have an art gallery. So we became friends through that, although he knew me as a guitar player from years ago. So we've been friends for quite a while. And he just said to me, if ever you need someone to paint an album sleeve or whatever, I'd love to get involved. And I just went, I might hold you to that one, mate, but be careful, because, you know, when he went, oh no, I'd love to do it because your music lends for me to do like a bit of a Roger Dean, Rodney Matthews, hypnosis type thing. I said, well, it's perfect for what Cats in Space is. So when we did the Scarecrow album, when Andy came on board for that, he brought down these sketches, and I didn't even have to tell him anything. And I swear, I just said to him, I want an autumnal sunset. I want the spaceship to land somehow, and he's gonna see it. They're gonna come into a scarecrow, and that scarecrow is gonna be the centerpiece. How you do the rest of it, don't know. It's got to be a gatefold panoramic piece of art. And then he brought me down these sketches, and he showed me and Stevie, and we're like, oh my God. I said, I couldn't even pinpoint something that was wrong with it. I was like, oh, you've done that? I said, oh, no, I'm not finished that yet. Then he goes away and he scurries. When he comes back, he's like, I've been thinking about that, and I've done this. And he put this, there's loads of little references on the back of Scarecrow in the city, where there's a lightning flash. very subtle. And that's because that's when David Bowie died. That's when he painted it. So we put the Ziggy Stardust lightning flash in there, little things like that that I would never think of. And Andy was just like, bam, bam, bam. And obviously the quality of the art is a different level. Yeah. And so he became part of the story. And because of that Scarecrow art, we then said every album is going to be, where do the cats go next? And he's already thinking, and we're already thinking. So we're always one album in front. And then he comes up with the Mad Hatter artwork and the Cheshire Cat and the Clown in Your Nightmare, all artworks that the fans love to buy. So we, just by pure fluke and friendship, we built this little art network for the bands that has become a seriously big merchandise avenue for us. And the fans love collecting it. And yeah, we're very fortunate. I mean, and Stevie being the digital artist that he is, and he's so good on the technical stuff. The three of us together are very lucky, because if we had to outsource that and pay people to do what we do, it would cost us fortunes. I mean,
sure, yeah,
serious money. And we're very fortunate. But that's, as I've said many times, and it sounds corny, but the way Cats in Space came together from the stupid idea to feed my ego for writing songs from the 70s to having this whole network of a team that can make an album the way we do it, it was just pure stars aligning at the right time, if you like, you know. So yeah, Andy's just, he's on another level. He's on a totally different level. He's busy as we speak, working away on the next. And I've just given him a deadline today, funnily enough. So.
Yeah, he kind of told me that though, like a few months ago, that he was working on that. So I was like, oh, I can't wait to see.
Hear the brushes going up there in Norwich.
So speaking of the next album, so how much can you tell me about how that's coming along?
Well, obviously, going through from the Atlantis album in lockdown, where we couldn't tour it, we've literally got one more date to do on the first part of the tour, which has gone really, really well. But because of the way that was working out, and obviously with us having to think ahead to the albums, and again, the vinyl problems you got in the world with delays, you've got to be thinking a year ahead. So the minute we finished Atlantis, which was November when it came out, I literally had a month over Christmas to start thinking about planning the next album, even though we hadn't toured Atlantis yet. So I went a bit nuts for a while. And I did, and it was the only time I've ever panicked. I didn't panic when Atlantis came together, never panicked for Scarecrow or Narnia, but I did panic last Christmas quite badly, thinking we can't afford to lose the traction that we're making, because we didn't know when we were going to be playing live again. So the only way you can promote your band and keep people on board is to keep giving them stuff, without obviously, draining their pockets too much. So I don't know how it happened, but I just started writing for the next album. I had a few songs that I was working on last November, and bit by bit, it all fell into place as always. And I got the theme. Me and Stevie discussed what the concept of the album was going to be, what it was going to be called. And the minute we had that, I went, right, I know exactly where this is going. And all these things, once again, came out of my crazy mind. Mick Wilson, who with my songwriting partner did the first 3 albums, he's been locked down doing his album with his band, so he hasn't been able to write with me for this album, very much like we didn't on Atlantis. And the direction of the band nowadays is far more rock based, if you like. So I just sat there and started recording in March. We've been recording ever since. I haven't finished yet. We got a few more sessions to do starting on Monday, about 2 more weeks of recording to do but we've got all the songs in shape. We've actually overwritten, funnily enough. I've overwritten for the first time, but only because I can't give too much away, but there's enough meat on the bone to make a very lavish edition, let's say that.
Okay.
But it's sounding immense. I'm trying not to give too much away because I don't want to spoil. We're still a way off. We can't even announce this, this year. But we've got a couple of special guests coming on. One of them is an absolute legend in the field. It's not Brian May, everybody. Don't think it's Brian May, and it's not someone like that. It's like John Bon Jovi or anything like that. But it's someone who is a legend in their field, and he is responsible for playing on some of the greatest songs ever written. and we've got him on our album on a few tracks. We've got the girl backing singers in again. We've got a special guest girl singer, Julie, is coming in to sing. And the songs are amazing. If I do say so myself, there's Andy Stewart, our keyboard player, said to me the other day in the van, he said, I think you're sitting on the best song you've ever written on the next album.
Wow. That's saying something, because we've got a lot of those.
Yeah, well, Great Story Never Told, I think, is still the best thing that me and Mick have written, just because of its grandeur. And it was the first time I said, I want to write my music by John Miles. And I think we did a good job. But there's a track on the new album that I think is going to kick its ass. Yeah.
Wow. I'm looking forward to this.
It's going to be very, very, very epic.
So you guys looking for like a late year release, or are we looking at 2022 at this point?
No, summer 22.
Okay.
Single in the spring. Late spring, there'll be a single. And then the album I want to come out in the summer, because obviously we want to be out touring it again in the autumn. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm hoping for a summer release for it. Yeah.
Okay. When are you guys going to come over to the US, play some dates? I mean, no, I know it's a tough time right now, but
we're packed. The bags are packed. We've said, actually, we know there's two areas that we could do well in. That's America and Germany, because our music could really transcend, especially for the American retro tours like your Styx and your Journeys.
REO Speedwagon, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you could get us tagged onto one of them bills, we'd smash it. We'd smash it because we fit in with that brief,
Yeah.
And we're the kind of, we're not quite as old as those guys, but we're not young chickens either, And if there's someone out there that can bring us to America, honestly, our bags are packed, because we're desperate. Dean, our guitar player, Dean Howard, he's toured there extensively. Jeff's toured there with the Suite, so we've got guys in the band that are seasoned US tourers, and we just want to get out there. So yeah, we want to take Cats in Space all over the world as quickly as possible.
Right, exactly. We'll see what happens. So
yeah, so
awesome.
Anybody out there in America who's watching this, get in touch.
Cool. So you mentioned Queen and Styx before, and I think in a lot of reviews, and when I talk about the band, I hear little bits of those bands, and maybe some ELO and 10cc, little Supertramp, certainly some Boston, some City Boy, and you've spoken about your love for 70s music. So from like a band collective in general, do most of those bands, were they like kind of an inspiration to what you're doing with the Cats in Space now?
Absolutely. I mean, what you just said there is absolutely a nutshell. John Miles, Peter Frampton, all those classic acts are in my blood. I grew up listening to it from a very young age. I've never gone past it. I've always stuck there, because everything that came out after it in the 80s and 90s was just, to me, not as magical as the stuff in the 70s. And yeah, we're just died in the wool with those kind of bands. And the fact people even use those as reference to our music is mind-boggling. I know, we joke saying, we sound a bit like Queen and a bit like ELO, and we nick our little bits here and there, but we then even put ourselves in the same category, level of quality as those bands. But because we hear it, we can't be objective about our music. But the fact that the fans tell us this, and they say, one guy came to me only the other night in Brighton, and he just said, Atlantis, I rate as high as Night at the Opera. I mean, you can't. He said, I'm not joking, Greg. He said, my top 5 albums of all time, Atlantis is in there with Night at the Opera and 3 others, And I went, well, if you honestly say that and you are being truthful, I said, that is my job done. I said, I can't quite believe it, but thanks ever so much, So yeah, but that's our remit. And if we're doing it and people can compare us to that, then we're delighted with that, really.
Would you call your music classic rock? I mean, I know classic rock is kind of like a weird term. It's been tossed around for decades now, and in most cases it signifies, music from that era, right? That's radio music. Because there's a lot of different elements to your music, right? Certainly a lot of pop in there. There's little bits of pop, prog rock grandiosity. There's some muscular moments, not really heavy metal, but hard rock. But kind of classic rock tends to like incorporate all of that. Is that like a good description for someone who's never listened to you guys before?
I would say, yeah. I mean, labels are just, I find sometimes is a very easy journalistic way of sticking in a box. Oh, they're that, bung them out the way. Radio stations are notorious for it. You know, we know all that. And I just think at the end of the day, they're just rock songs. They're just, you know, yeah, there's pop rock in there. You know, there's someone said one of our riffs sounded like Saxon the other day, which I was aghast. But when I listened back, I thought, actually, there's a bit of Dallas 1 PM in there. You know, what's not to like? You know, Dallas 1 PM is a great tune. Yeah, probably
it is.
So it's, you know, and they say, oh, Saxon are heavy metal, but you know, then heavy metal to me is like Metallica and all that kind of stuff. I just think we're just a rock band. I mean, Queen, what were Queen? They were file under progressive on the first two albums. On the back of the albums, it said file under progressive. Work that one out. You know, I just think we're a classic rock band in the sense that we take our sound from the classic sound of old school rock. You know, there's nothing modern about us really. I mean, I listen to modern bands, friends of ours that are out there doing the same thing. I listen to their albums. They've got the modern production, modern drum sounds. They shy away from doing some of the things that we do because they just think, oh no, you can't go there because that sounds like Eurovision or Cheese or whatever. But we just go, boom, if we do it. And I just say, Bohemian Rhapsody, follow-up single was You're My Best Friend. Need I say any more? There's your spread.
Yep.
And we're right in there.
Yeah, cool. So you got 4 studio albums. You got some live stuff. Looking back on the catalog, what's your favorite Cats in Space album? What are your 3 favorite songs?
That's not off me to shoot one of my cats, those. Do you know what? It's impossible. I mean, I listen to our stuff because I genuinely enjoy listening to it. Not because I'm sitting there wallowing in my own glory, but as I've said many times, I'm playing with my favourite players. You know, these guys, Jeff, Stevie, Dean, Andy, you know, they are my favourite, you know, players. You know, and Damon is just, I can listen to his voice all day long. I really can. So I listen to the albums just for my own enjoyment, but also to reference where I'm going with it. So, you know, going in the future, let's not try and tread on our own toes too much. And I'm continually battling between the emotional attachment I have with each album. So the first album, there's a strong, strong bond because we did not know what the bloody hell we were doing. And I didn't even have a band. Those guys came in and guested on this album that me and Stevie were financing with my long-term engineering and cable. And we just had the best time going, they're never going to buy this. People are just not going to, we can't do this. And so we were just scared and excited. And me and Mick were writing these songs in his little studio in London, just thinking, we're nuts. We're nuts. So that album's got a really lot of emotional content. Musically, it's still got some of our best songs on it. God's Great Story Never Told. You know, I'm a big fan of Last Man Standing. I love that song a lot because it's got that jaunty kind of, oh, this isn't a rock band doing this kind of thing. A bit of a Slade influence. Scarecrow special because it's when we got the management on board and we had financial backing and we did all the big tours on the back of it. And basically I was allowed to go into the studio and go nuts with a lot of money. And I did, and I spent it. I spent every single penny of it, mucking about, hitting pianos with spoons and having the band come in for long periods of time. And that was a really magical time to enjoy that old school, we're in a studio, locked away, experimenting. I think that album does come across with that. I think when you listen to stuff like Broken Wing and Scarecrow and Jupiter Calling, that was a band in the studio really trying to push us into the box that would sit there with Night at the Opera and Day at the Races and Obsession and Bad Reputation, that kind of stuff, you know, all the ELO's albums, you know. And I think we achieved it. Narnia, that was me and Mick locked away for a whole year working on a concept album, and we absolutely lost our minds doing that. We painted ourselves into a very small corner. But again, the Narnia thing with Johnny Rocket and all that kind of stuff, that was a real achievement to do that. And then obviously Atlantis. And I've got to say, I'm not just saying this from a sales point of view, but Atlantis is my favourite because of the horrendous time we went through doing it. You know, we had Stevie in hospital with major heart surgery. So he was out of action and we were all worried about him for quite a while. And that was hard, not having him as my kind of right-hand man for 6 months. My father died during the recording. You know, we lost our previous singer, Mark, and then Damien came in. And, you know, it was just one thing after another. And the one constant throughout all of it was these songs that we just knew were going to be special. So there's a lot of emotional performance on Atlantis that sticks it head and shoulders above the other 3 albums, especially on the track Atlantis. So
it's a great song.
Yeah, it is. But there's also a lot of emotion in that song, which if people dig really deep, Stevie's lyrics do tell an awful lot. They do tell an awful lot about the situation he was in at the time. So we're never going to be able to do another album like that, to be fair. Well, I bloody hope not, because of the tragedy involved. You know, kind of laughing about it now. I shouldn't really laugh about it, but you know, my dad actually said to me, you know, literally on his deathbed, you know, he said, "Are you off to the studio again today?" I said, "Well, I've got to get this bloody album finished, Dad. You know, I've got to do it." He said, "Oh, COVID's not helping you very much, is it?" I said, "No, it's not." And he was, even right then, when he knew that he didn't have long to go, he was still asking me about, am I going to get my album finished? So, cool.
Well, he knew how important it was to you. So, yeah.
I think he was tired after watching me for 30 odd years, not earning a penny. He goes, "How long are you going to keep doing this, mate?" Because my dad was a guitar player as well, you see. And he was out a jobbing musician, earning money all the time. And I was just writing songs. He goes, "Who do you think you are, bloody Lennon and McCartney or something?" And I said, "I can write songs, Dad," you know. And he heard the Cats in Space stuff. And my mum played it to him. And like they said, because my dad's a jazz musician, he's not into Queen and stuff like that. But he really appreciated it. He just said, singing's really, really good. He said guitar's too much sustain, too much distortion, but he loved the singing. And so that was a real proud moment, you know. So yeah, Atlantis has to be my favorite album on that respect.
You know, Atlantis is really special. And as you saw when we did the ranking show, I mean, I part of me really wanted Atlantis to be my number one. I think I have an attachment to Scarecrow, but for me, Atlantis was kind of like the perfect album to help a lot of us get through this thing called COVID, right? I mean, it's just uplifting and, you know, listen to the music. It should be a worldwide sensation of a song. And it celebrates the power of music. And I'm a firm believer that the power of music can get you through just about anything, right? It's the best healing drug that there is in this world. And I find the Atlantis album is just such a feel-good album. And it came at a perfect time.
Yeah, but again, that wasn't contrived. It wasn't. All we decided was we're not going to shut the shop up while COVID's on. We're going to still do our album. We're still going to put it out. If no other band puts anything out this year, we'll get a bigger slice of the pie. Which, as it turned out, not many bands did release. It has become our biggest selling album, and it was also our fastest seller out of vinyl. That we sold out of the 2 different variants, I think, on pre-sale, and it was also our quickest. The first weekend we released it, when we did the pre-sale, we was hoping that we might recoup the recording costs within a couple of weeks, and we recouped within 16 hours. Because by the Sunday evening, we'd recouped because the sales were that strong. And not everyone had COVID. No one was going out. They were just buying records, you know. So, yeah, I think it is an uplifting album. And I think we were very fortunate that we brought this thing out and it attached itself to a lot of people. And again, I think when they play it in years to come, it's going to remind them of that time, which all great music should do. It should always take you back to a part of your life, which is why we love the 70s stuff so much, because we had the joy of youth, didn't we? Where all we really cared about was, you know, when's the next Queen album coming out? Can I get it for Christmas? Or can I get it when it first comes out? Can I save my pocket money up? And you just attach yourself to those memories. And that's what Cats in Space is. We just want our music to make people remember when music used to make you feel like that, which I don't think it does anymore. I think it's watered down to such a nonsense level these days.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people, it's like commodity. It's like kind of throwaway. It's just there, right? And
how much new music do you need anymore? When you get to an age where you've had enough, I've got enough of this. I just can't take any more on board. So to bring a new album out and make it hit the bullseye and make it get into that collection and not be disposable is really, really tough, which is why we really try our hardest to make records that you can just slot back into the old days and go, I like this stuff and I'll keep playing it. It's very tough in the marketplace. So
it is, and the concept of an album is kind of lost on a lot of people these days, right? It's almost like everything is a la carte now. I'll just buy and listen to or purchase what I want and what I like, and people will give a quick cursory listen to a piece of music and say, yeah, well, that sounds good. I'll buy that. All sounds good. I'll download that, and then not give the rest a chance. But albums, you can't really fully get on one listen like that, right? I mean, and I think the whole, when we were young, right, the new Queen album came out, the new Kiss album came out, the new Styx album came out, the new Judas Priest album, whatever it is, you would go and you would listen to that start to finish, front to back, over and over and over again until it finally, really settles into here. And I don't think that's a lost art, I think.
Oh God, yeah, definitely. And again, art's a good word, because you can give someone something pretty standard like you get nowadays. It looks like everything else. Many record labels have a very generic format that they release their stuff, all the same logos and design. Ours comes out and you're going to go, whoa, blimey, what's that? You've got to make it stick out from the pack. One, the name does, like it or hate it, it does. Our artwork, we really, really take great pride over that, because at least if you've got 30 albums on your table, I doubt you'll find something with better artwork than ours, which we're very fortunate. So at least you go, whoa, what's this one? And as Crusher Jewel, our good friend Crusher, who absolutely despises our sort of music, loves death metal and Metallica and God knows what else. We traded T-shirts, because again, he's an artist, and I said, I like your T-shirt, and I said, I'll give you a Cats in Space one. And I said, I'll send you our album up. And he just said, I should absolutely hate this record. It's everything I stand against. He said, but it's the best album I've heard in the last 20 years. I said, I said, why am I liking your album, Greg? I should hate it. What are you doing to me? He said, but I can't stop playing it. He said, because the way the album started, Dive, he just went, I've not heard anybody do this since Yes or whatever. And he said, well, I'll let this track go then. And then the next track starts. And he said, before I knew it, I'd listened to the whole album, and his wife came in and they said, what are you listening to? He said, I'm not quite sure, but I bloody love it. We became really good buddies, and he still says it now. He said, I should hate your band, but I love it so much. He said, because it's real, it's from that time,
Yeah.
So yeah, we're chuffed, and you've got to take people on a journey on a record, and if you can do that, then they will lock in, and they won't just go 36 seconds and off. YouTube videos, look at the analytics on that. I mean, you're lucky to get 40 seconds before they go, yeah, chorus. And, there's a cat on a roller skate or something, or a man falling off of a ladder, and it's so quick, isn't it? So the albums have got to count. They're not concept albums per se, but they are designed to go start to finish. I mean, would you shuffle Night of the Opera? I wouldn't.
No. Got to be heard in that order, right? And if it's out of that order, I'm like, oh, wait a second, that doesn't go there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's got to be. That's going to be the way. And if people don't like that, fair enough. But if we're finding that more and more people are just, if they like us and they like our music and they engage with it, they really engage with it. We don't have any fence sitters with us, which is what we wanted. We wanted it to be black or white, no grey. So our fans and our fan club. I mean, there's a fan club convention going on tonight up north. I'm like, a fan club convention for Cats in Space. We've been going 5 minutes, But that's the level. These people just want to. They want to talk about it and do stuff and be part of this crazy world, So it's bloody brilliant.
It's a good thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very fortunate. We didn't expect it. We never expected all this to happen. And every day we still wake up and one of us will call each other or we say, have you seen that? I said, I can't believe that's going on. It's brilliant to watch. It's good fun as well.
Sure. Very cool. Well, Greg, before we let you go, anytime I chat with a guitar player, want to talk some gear. So
Yeah,
What are
sure.
some of your kind of like go-to guitars these days? What are you using for amplifiers and effects and things like that?
Okay, well, as you got behind you, I can see a Les Paul there. That is me, dyed in the wall. Oh, and you got a flying V.
Yeah.
Hey, what V is that?
So this is a 2013 standard. I have a 2014 traditional and a 2015 classic. And then
Oh,
the Flying V is an Epiphone Carina. It's a kind of like a remake of the 58 Carina V, the Gibson Carina V. And I've got I got a black SG. I've got a Paul Reed Smith, a Telecaster, and a Stratocaster. So that's my little collection.
what a good collection. Yeah, well, I'm straight down the middle Gibson. So I've got, me and Dean have got a pretty hefty collection between us, and we're always competing who's going to get the next one. I think since lockdown started, I think we've both bought maybe half a dozen each.
Wow. I mean, I would love more Les Pauls. I just don't have the room for them. And honestly, I'm not in a band or anything like that. So I don't really need more, but I'm kind of a collector too. So yeah, they're
I'm trying to get every Les Paul between 1970 and 1980. So my goal is to have one of each through that period. And I've got, I need a 70 and a 71 and another one. I can't remember. But I've got a 72 Deluxe. I've got a 76 Deluxe. I've got a very rare 75 Kalamazoo Special Order Standard, because they didn't make them in 75. And that's almost mint condition, very much like Brian Robertson's.
Oh, nice.
Mint guitar. That's my biggest expense recently. I've got Richie Sambora's flame top. That's most of the photos on stage when you see me with a flame top Les Paul, 1989, but it used to belong to Richie Sambora a long time ago. I've had that guitar 20 years now, and it's been my workhorse. It's phenomenal. I've got 5 Explorers, cut the Telecasters, 5 acoustics, 2 Flying V's. I've got a Paul Stanley original PS10 from 1978.
Wow.
That's a guitar. I've got a Rocket Roll Flying V Ibanez, which is one like I had one in 1982 and I stupidly sold it, so I've managed to get one of them back. So those are all the go-to guitars I got. Marshall amps, not a massive effects pedal. We've used pretty standard switchable amps. I use Boss chorus and delay for the clean stuff. I've got a MXR phaser for the Scott Gorham sound, obviously. Color Sound wah wah, obviously.
Yeah.
I've got like I sometimes use this little, it's called a squelcher or something. It's like a compressor. And on the clean setting, sometimes I punch that in just to give a tiny bit of lift. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. And in the studio, I've got a vintage Marshall combo that I use, and a Roland Tiny Terror, which is brilliant, just flat out. And that is the Cats in Space sound. I have got a secret weapon, which is a handmade treble booster that is made to the same circuitry as Brian May's original one.
Wow, okay.
Made by my buddy Neil down in Eastbourne. And he hand wires them, hand makes them. One knob, one switch, and this thing is just like the devil coming out of a box, literally. You just blend it in with the guitar sound, and you can put so much gain and bite into it. It's unbelievable. So I use that in line in the studio just when I'm racking out the big kind of Pete Townsend chords and stuff. And Dean, I can vouch for him. He does pretty much the same. He does use his famous Strat Pinky a lot. And we get that blend. He's got a 335 Gibson as well, which we blend in the studio. So we get the full spectrum of the pickups, if you like. So we'd have the humbuckers versus the P90s and the mini humbuckers, and that's how we get that massive spread of guitars. And it works a treat. We never compete with each other. We always go, you're that, and then we put it in the mix, and it works really nice. And then live, we just turn it up loud and crank it up. So
there you go. Yeah,
it's great fun. I mean, I love it. I mean, I love my guitars. They're just like children to me, you know. And the joy for me and Dean's worse than me actually. We still get that same magical joy that when we got our very first Les Paul when we were 17, and you just used to stare at it can't believe
They're works of art. I mean, just even staring at them is like, I mean, every day, even if I don't play, I like look at it and I'm like, wow, that's beautiful.
You can never get tired of looking at that Les Paul shape and going, whoever invented that shape on a Les
Genius.
Paul, it's just, it is still the go-to, isn't it? It's like no one's ever bettered it. And it's, yeah, I don't think I'll ever tire of that kind of excitement of actually picking up the Les Paul, putting it on the Strat, and then just going out and playing live. Every night on the tour, we take 4 or 5 different guitars each, and I'm kind of just, I think I'm very lucky to be able to say I've got a nice collection of guitars and I can go and do all this stuff live. You know, we have a guitar tech that hands me them, and I kind of think, yeah, it's not a bad life to be able to do that, and I'm very appreciative of it as well, because you know, you can take these things for granted, but we don't. You know, we're very appreciative of it.
Yeah, yeah. Who were some of your heroes growing up, your guitar heroes?
Oh, Andy Scott at the Sweet was the reason why I picked up a guitar in the first place. When I was 10, all I wanted to do was do Wigwam Bam. I just thought that was the best thing ever. And then I was a huge Sweet fan. Sweet were everything going through school, until one day my oldest brother came home and put this song on, and I thought the Martians had landed, and it was Seven Seas of Rye. And from that minute onwards, I became a huge Queen fan. Still loved the Sweet because the harmonies and stuff. And Brian May, I just couldn't understand what Brian May was, you know, because I didn't know about guitar harmonies and how you did that. I just thought you had this most amazing guitar sound. So Queen came along, so Brian May was an influence, and then Thin Lizzy came out, and it was just a life changer. From that minute onwards, all I wanted to be was Scott Gorham and Brian Robertson. So I could never decide. I just thought Robbo for the
package deal, right? Yeah.
Tell me a cooler guitar player that's ever walked this planet than Scott Gorham, and the answer is there ain't no one, mate. In 1976, Scott Gorham was just everything. He still is now. He's still such a lovely, cool guy. But yeah, and Gary Moore, obviously. When I heard Gary Moore, I was very fortunate to meet Gary and have a cup of tea with him once, and he actually made me a cup of tea, and I sat there thinking, you're just the greatest guitar player that's ever been, and you're in your socks making me a cup of tea. And I just thought that was so cool. And he was very complimentary about the band I was in as well, which I thought was a bit mind-boggling. Bearing in mind I was actually playing some of his solos, because I was in a Thin Lizzy tribute band, and I had to do Parisian Walkways every night, which used to fill me with dread. I'm sitting there looking at this guy going, if only you knew I'm playing that song every night, mate. But he was super cool. And obviously Eddie Van Halen, he was a game changer. Didn't influence me because there's no way I was going to even tackle what he was doing. I just gave up at that point. I just thought, it's all about the songs for me anyway. And I just spent more time writing songs and being a widdly guy, you know. But no, it was Scott, Robbo, Gary Moore, Brian May, Andy Scott. Alex Lifeson on those early Rush albums was inspirational. I saw Joe Satriani at the Marquee when he had hair, and I was right down the front watching that. Not my cup of tea at all, but to watch someone do that on a guitar, that was also another reason why I gave up playing lead guitar for about 20 years. That was mind-boggling to watch that. And I also saw at the same venue Jeff Healey.
Yeah.
Healey, bless him, sitting down blind playing that guitar. That was something to watch and all. But again, not my cup of tea musically, so it didn't really influence me. But so I just keep going. Oh, Michael Shanker, of course.
Oh yeah.
Michael Shanker. I mean, you know, he's probably as good as we got now. I think, you know, now Gary's gone. But yeah, if I was going to stick my neck on the block, Brian May for being Brian May, and God bless him for all the music that he's made, and Gary Moore. I just don't think. Sorry, get out. I knew that would go. So Brian May, Gary Moore, greatest guitar player that I've ever seen.
One of my favorites, yeah. One of my favorites. I miss him.
I've seen grown men cry, literally in the audience were crying when he was playing guitar. He was that good. You know, not crying because they were, you know, they weren't as good as him, just the emotion that guy got out of the guitar, you know, when he was doing Parisian, or the other one was The Loner, when he played that song, The Loner, live.
Loner was great, yeah.
Possibly the greatest bit of guitar playing ever.
Yeah.
I think if I had to pick a favourite thing, that was just magic. just, even now, I hear people do it. It's like, just don't, mate.
leave it be, right? And just enjoy what he did. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
His touch, and the way he could dig in, and then suddenly turn the guitar right down quiet and just do like little quiet. He was just on a
magical. Yeah, one of the greats.
Yeah, so definitely my favorite. And a good songwriter and a good singer. You know,
absolutely, the total package. Yeah, the total package.
I hate his albums. He was knocking out AOR rock for fun, wasn't he? In 83, 84, 85. He was just brilliant. You know, I know a lot of guys that know him as well, and they all just said the same thing. They said he was just on a different level.
Yeah. We miss him.
Definitely. Probably one of the shockingest, apart from Phil Lynott and Freddie, of course. Gary was. That was sad day. That was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's not end on that though.
I know, right? So Diamonds, the best of Cats in Space. Go out and check it out. And we look forward to a new Cats in Space album coming out in 2022. I want to thank Greg Hart for spending some time with us today. This was a lot of fun. And please do go investigate their music. Some just absolutely great stuff. It's only 4 albums. More coming. And Greg, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, mate. And thanks everybody out there for watching your YouTube channel and engaging with Cats. It's, you know, you guys are our lifeblood out there. So thank you again on behalf of all of us. Brilliant.
You're very welcome, but thank you for the music. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook too. We're also on Twitter, but more importantly, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Greg Hart, I am Pete Pardo. Have a good weekend, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.